Every city you burn, I'm gonna build one high.
The old order has collapsed, and war rages across the stars. The might of the empires was weakened by endless conflict, and destroyed when the factions of lawless space attacked under a single banner. The rules have been rewritten, and a new war begins. The battered Empire fleets have retreated to the edge of known space to rebuild. To win the coming conflict, they need a new breed of leader. The Chief Commander. The Empires have equipped them with their most powerful technologies. And with forbidden science, they have resurrected past heroes to serve on the battlefield. Each empire must conquer or be destroyed. But glory awaits those who can lead their forces to victory. Destroy your enemies. Find your allies. And rewrite your destiny.
Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashtarothi, the voice of New Eden, and it is October 3rd, YC126, and this is the EVE Universe Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got so much to cover. I am back. I wasn't able to stream on Tuesday, but we were kind of like waiting for a lot of things. There's a lot of things that like I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to also wait till we had all of the information that we had. Now we have a lot more. Also, the Crimson Harvest is now live. So we've got a lot to talk about what's been going on and what is about to happen in the next month. So settle on in, like the stream, and let's jump into it all. How's it going, guys? Yes, what we just watched there was the trailer for EVE Galaxy Conquest, which is their new 4X mobile game, which we will be talking a little bit about today. I haven't gotten a chance to play it or anything like that, but we do have quite a bit of information about it, and it is coming out later this month. So that is one of the topics that we want to talk about. I do want to say on the top today, hey guys, hey Container Records. Good to see that Wayne is doing well. I like this video game. I like EVE Online. I know that there's been a lot of consternation about Zarzak changes and Skyhook changes and whatnot, and there will be a fair chunk of criticism and stuff in today's stream as well, but just realize that, like, overall, EVE is still a good game and all that sort of stuff. So I don't want people to take it the wrong way. And more importantly, I know that there have been some people that have been like, oh, look at these guys just complaining about how they can't raid Skyhooks anymore. For me, it's about the balance of the game and having the components of the game interacting in a way in which they seem to be interested in. So we'll jump into that when we talk about it. But like, I do want to stress that I do think that nullsec should be able to have fun in nullsec and you know, whatnot. But this is a very complicated situation, and unfortunately, the Skyhook changes went live on Tuesday. Hey, what's up, Yorkshire? Yeah, totally live. So the changes that went live on Tuesday were actually worse than the changes that we were expected in some pretty critical ways. They did not back down in any way on any of the concerns that we had. So if you want to go watch the previous stream where we were talking about what problems might be coming, or what with the Skyhook changes and the problems that I had with the Skyhook changes, well, they are live now, and many of those problems have been realized and more are coming. So, or it was even worse than I had feared. So let's go ahead and jump into the details. I just like Parchment and Pirates. I need the rest of the game to be working well in order to enjoy that. Yeah, exactly. That's fair. And that is actually a good point that I have had to come back to again and again in conversations, which is that, like, EVE Online is a big place with a lot of stuff. So the good news is, even if one aspect of it, like nullsec or whatever, isn't doing exactly what you want it to do, chances are there's other places in space where other things are happening that you could find interesting. So that's worth paying attention to. But let's go ahead and look at the changes. Skyhook enhancements now live and FAQ. The Upwell Consortium has rolled out an update for orbital skyhooks, bringing added security to their owners and reducing the logistical burning of maintaining the structures. I don't know if I agree with that second half of that sentence. Whoops, what was that? This enhancement addresses vulnerabilities that left skyhooks open to raiding at all times, placing the responsibility on capsuleers to monitor them constantly. More information about these enhancements are available here, and many of the frequently asked questions are answered below. The here is what we talked about the other day. Security has been a big topic of discussion amongst capsuleers of late, following the siege of Zarzak. After drifter forces were pushed back, a mysterious shrouded structure appeared in the system. Today, pilots approaching it have reported being contacted by Caravanmancer Malaya Harada in the Harada Oki clan with an invitation to assist the Deathless Circle's next step in the investigation into the new discovery. We'll look at that in a second. I do find it interesting that they point that out at the very beginning of the Skyhook thing. That leads into my tinfoil, which we will touch on later. So I guess just put a pin in that for now. The Skyhook enhancements rolled out today bring greater efficiency. This leads to a significant increase in the amount of reagents extracted and therefore flowing into the market, directly impacting the entire economy of New Eden. The streamlined system will reduce operational friction while boosting overall productivity. So let's talk about this real quick. So more materials from Skyhooks. We're talking specifically about the superionic gas, superionic ice and magmatic gas. When you increase that, as we looked at last time, these are commodities. They have a floor on the market. However, that floor is like 1/10 of its current selling rate. So this increase in productivity by Skyhooks will do a few things. One, it should reduce the value of the magmatic gas and superionic ice. You're increasing the supply without necessarily increasing the demand. It will make things that require those things cheaper. In other words, Sino beacons, Sino jammers, and Celebyx beacons, supercapital construction facilities. These are all, as the material becomes cheaper, they become those production also become cheaper. Now, the important thing about this is all of this extra material, unless you're willing to sell it to the commodities, which again is cheap or is worth too little usually for most people. Like you have all of this increased productivity or passive income from all of this. But that passive income must be realized through active production, right? So you either need to convert the material that's being drilled passively into Metanox moon drills, which makes it into material for T2 production, or you can sell it to other people, or wrong time zone. What do you mean? Supply might go up, but also the flow from null to markets go down as heists dumping it into the market is less common. That is possibly true, but again, those null blocks need to do something with this resource. Otherwise, it's just wasted money, right? So, they get passive income. It's just like when, moon goo is passive income. You still have to convert that moon goo into T2 production in order to make it into something of value. So, there is a spur of productivity that comes from that as people try to find excuses to use this shit. So, as magnetic gas becomes cheaper, more readily available, and people have large caches of it, like the chances of them just throwing a Metanox moon drill on a thing because you already have all of the fuel that you need goes up. Our market will rival. Hey, anybody who wants to support the the Zarzak market has a place in my voter block, I'd say. But so that is something to keep in mind with this increased productivity, is that like it isn't an ISK sink directly. It's a material. Sorry, an ISK faucet. It's a material faucet for sure. All this extra material has to go somewhere, and that somewhere goes into cheaper T2 production and cheaper super capital production potentially, but probably not as much. And of course, cheaper maintenance of nullsec, which actually brings up a big piece of all of this, which is the question is who are these changes for? You know, a lot of the line members in nullsec groups are actually not very happy with these changes. These changes are explicitly for upper leadership command, the people that maintain strategic decisions about large blocks. That's all this is for. And we have some evidence about that. I'll actually just show this right now if I can find it. Where is it? Here is a post from Gobbins, who's the head of Pandemic Horde, which, as he points out, they are one of the largest territory holders of groups of the game. They have the most amount of planets, it says, and yes, this benefits us even more than our rivals since we have way more planets, but I still think it's kind of broken. So even the person that is benefiting from this is saying that this is broken. It is increasing their reagent gain by 6 times, although that is an estimate, and we will look at some problems with that guess or that estimate, some bugs involving that. But what we're seeing here is the natural, like, so CCP can't control player behavior directly, right? CCP can't say, oh, no blocks have to do it this way, because that's, I mean, players are able to make their own game. That's the whole thing about the sandbox. So the fact that this change has caused one of the larger null blocks to effectively go, hey, this is now a strategic asset. They are claiming it so that way, you know, they were going to rent out skyhooks so that way, you know, you kind of distribute the responsibility of skyhooks. You have your own skyhook. You pay a little bit of money to the higher command, i.e. a tax, and then you can have the resources out of the skyhook. And that was kind of how they went. However, with this change, given the fact that 50% of it is guaranteed, and the act of having to maintain these skyhooks require significantly less logistical energy from an upper echelon point of view, what they've decided to do is screw all the renters and pull all of the skyhooks for themselves. This only happens when the change supports it being more of a strategic asset than an individual asset. I know I speculated that it could very well be that they could be like, okay, well, just rate it on your own and then you can turn it in to opportunities. But clearly that was very optimistic, right? The thing is that now skyhooks must be rated once every 3 days by the owner of the skyhook, the owning corporation of the skyhook. And if they do so, their skyhook link is halved. So they only have a 5-minute link, not a 10-minute link. So, and remember, as soon as that link is over, the reinforcement ends and it opens up a new 3-day cycle. So the chances of a skyhook being vulnerable is extraordinarily low. And it's even worse, at least it has been for the last several days, than previously imagined. And we'll look at why. The big reason why, actually, we can look at it a little bit. Actually, let's just go back to the Q&A. Let's see what else they have to say about it, and then we'll jump back into side things. The skyhook enhancement rolled out today brings greater efficiency. This leads to a significant increase in the amount of reagents. Streamlined system will reduce operational friction while boosting overall productivity. These changes aim to encourage all nullsec groups to transition to their new sovereignty system today. Furthermore, the Upwell Consortium has announced that on the 29th of October, transitioning to the new system will become mandatory for all encapsulators. This is earlier than they said that it was going to be. Space Ghost, I'm getting into that. Now, what happened to my old upgrades and territorial claim units? Your old upgrades and existing TCUs have had their reprocessing rates adjusted so that you'll get back the full bill of materials upon reprocessing them. So congratulations. Any of your old TCUs, any of your old sovereignty upgrades, now's the time to reprocess them wherever you want, and you get 100% of the materials back. When will the grace period for removing rigs end? On 29th of October. What happens if I'm in the process of building a super capital manufacturing upgrade in that system and no longer can support it after the transition? The building process will be paused. If your system cannot physically install the necessary upgrades, the game masters will refund you for your bill of materials. I want to point out, like, for all of you who have bemoaned the loss of, I haven't talked about the new stuff, the event stuff. The loss of HTFU, right? Like, that is one of the things that has come from a lot of these changes, popular and unpopular, throughout all of EVE history. You know, there's the idea of, like, harden the fuck up. Just adapt or die, right? And so you can kind of judge a change based on how much they demand that the people impacted by that change are forced to adapt or die. Super capital production doesn't, it takes, like, at most, like an actual super capital. How long, actually, I'll just ask, anybody know how long does it take for a super capital to be produced, like from the moment you put it into the oven to the moment it spits out? Because my understanding is it's roughly about a month, right? And the reason why I bring this up is because we have known that these systems are the way they are since, oh boy, hold on. EVE News Archive. When did the expansion happen? Equinox. So 3 months ago. It's new 7 to 8 weeks. Okay, so even if it's 2 months. 3 months ago, we got the details about how these changes were going to play out. So in my opinion, any super capital being produced right now is being produced under the understanding that the system that you're producing it in might not be able to support it. Like, if it isn't able to support it now, it would never have been able to support it. All of the changes that they have done is to make it so that systems are more capable of having these options. So if you're producing a super capital in a system that cannot produce super capitals, you have known this has been true for at least 3 months, and you were trying to rush your production through before the November deadline to switch it over, and they've moved up the deadline a little bit, so now you're being caught out of guard. And rather than allow CCP to have players feel the brunt of their mistake, which admittedly is a big mistake, this is a very costly mistake if somebody was to do this, they are going to just simply refund it. We would get, yes, they said that it would be, the mandatory swap over would happen. That's the key. They said it would happen in November, but now they're saying it's the beginning of October. So that is the argument, right? Like, you might have thought that you had some time up until November to finish it. Hold on. Oh, no. Sorry, that was my dad, so I felt like at least finding out what it was. If the game developer says we're changing it from X to Y on a date, then developer moves it up early. How is it the player's fault? And like I said, if we are hinging ourselves on that, then by all means, that's fair. I will say that that is fair, because it did say... I don't remember when they I'm going to try to pull it up, the actual information, but they did say November. Yeah. All current existing structures in Sov Nullsec will temporarily be able to remove their rigs without destroying them during the transition period, which is from now until the next expansion, which is scheduled for November. So, you know what? Fair enough. I think that I could argue that HTFU, you knew this change was going to happen, but you could counter argue, wait, we were promised until the next expansion, which is in November, and the 29th of October does not appear to be either the next expansion nor November. So by all means, yeah, I guess they owe it to you for that. I guess under those circumstances, I would just simply call this an unforced error, right? Like, why? That's a good question. That's actually a really good question. Why are they moving up the timeline? Yeah. I agree, Gizmo. They said the same thing with this. They said that this November note, I just pulled it up because of whatever, but like, that's correct. The transition period. The transition period was both for the rigs and also for... I wonder if it's their way of being like, it's a compromise, right? We're going to make it super awesome to change over, but we're also going to turn up the timeline to change over. Because CCP has decided to try to strategically make sure that every change that they make involving these skyhooks makes nobody happy. That seems to be their objective. It's like, well, since we can't make everybody happy, we need to just make sure that nobody's happy with the changes. But I digress. Okay. So yeah, I mean, like I said, absolutely fair. I'm gonna take back what I said before. The refunding is silly, in my opinion, or not silly. It smacks of something being fundamentally wrong. However, I agree that based on the decisions that CCP has made, it's probably a necessary compromise to be given. Is that fair? I think that's fair. It's still a sign that something smacks of being rotten, but it's not necessarily the player's fault. Without knowing what the next expansion will be, I'll imagine that they would want to make sure that the next expansion is not being overshadowed by Equinox, which is not being viewed favorably in general. I mean, yeah, they have every reason to have that feeling, but that doesn't mean that they didn't go back on what they said. No one is going to be happy, but if it needs to be done to move forward with Sov updates, it's got to be done. We'll have to see. I also don't blame it all on CCP. I smell Pearl Abyss pulling the strings of it. I don't know about conspiracy theories involving Pearl Abyss too much when it comes to the operation of Eve, but maybe. But it is true. I think that Tibbs is probably correct, where they wanted Equinox to kind of go up to the new expansion, but they expected a lot more people to switch over. So since people haven't switched over, they're now being more aggressive to make people want to and have to switch over. So that way, because like when they first decided on this plan, only the broadest strokes of the next expansion was already like outlined. As details about the new expansion begin to become clearer to CCP and they're developing it, they might have changed their idea of how important it was for everybody to have been well switched over by then. They probably don't need the money for fourth quarter due to the launch of Galaxy Conquest. That is a frighteningly prescient statement, I think. Noisy. I think they weren't expecting people to not be happy. I agree. I think that they were expecting it to be somewhat controversial. All changes are. But the universal hatred for it, and more importantly, one of the things that we figured out while we were looking at the Skyhook changes last time is that while we can disagree with the Skyhook changes, this is a fundamentally cursed problem, right? There is no actual solution that lends itself to a good outcome. We iterated on several of the obvious solutions to this problem, and they all come up with their own problems. This is a cursed problem. This is an issue that CCP has kind of boxed themselves into and are now trying to get themselves out of. Yeah. I don't know whether or not their numbers were massively wrong. I do think that there was a certain amount of they expected to ramp up how good it was over time. But I think it was more of a drama than they even expected. You can be unhappy with even CCP, but we all love Ash. Oh, thanks. All right. Last time I saw this amount of people upset was the scarcity and Rockwall nerf. Yeah, I mean, well, scarcity was a lot of anger. That's true. Okay. Moving on. Where will information about Skyhook vulnerability be visible? Vulnerable Skyhooks will appear in the agency and on the map. We are going to look at the agency in a little bit. Yeah. When can the structure bay be emptied? Secure bay. The secure bay can be emptied at any time. So remember, 50% of the material now goes into a bay that can only be raided and only once every 3 days. And 50% of the material goes into a secure bay that can only be removed by ACL. Get into the part that confused me. I need to know math for Skyhook robbing. Yeah. Okay. So when a Skyhook comes out of reinforcement mode, is the next vulnerability period based on that timer or the original vulnerability timer? Skyhooks will always use the reinforcement timer to determine their next vulnerability period. How is the Skyhook vulnerability window calculated? The vulnerability window for Skyhooks is determined by its reinforcement timer, which is calculated using the normal distribution with the 3-hour standard deviation. The next vulnerability hour is 72 hours, plus or minus the variance from normal distribution shown below. Does this mean that the timer will start exactly every 3 days? Not quite. Initially, timers will set to follow a 3-day cycle, but as the system continues to generate timers with random offsets, they will gradually start spreading more and more evenly across the day. Below is a worst-case scenario simulation of how the vulnerability windows distribute in a hypothetical situation where every Skyhook has the same reinforcement timer. In practice, it will even out much faster. Okay. Oh. So, this is wild. First of all, this is the up until today, there has been 0 Skyhooks vulnerable in all of New Eden since this patch was made. So that for the last 2 days, all Skyhooks have just been sitting there completely locked down, ready to go. Today, they are starting to come out. That Griff is insane, not the graph itself, but they use this for justification and clarification. It is bizarre. So allow me to attempt to explain what is happening here. And I will stress that what I'm going to say is technically slightly different than what they are saying. So I might be wrong, but this is the only way that I can figure out what they're saying is making sense. So in order to understand how this works, let's look at a different kind of structure. So let's look at, say, well, actually, let's look at a hypothetical structure. I remember when Athenors, or when they did the medium structure changes to wormholes, they made it so wormholes have a 24-hour timer. For the sake of this discussion, let's just work with that in order to make the math easy and the understanding easy, okay? So a structure has a reinforcement timer of 24 hours with a chosen reinforcement time, okay? So let's say your chosen reinforcement time is at 1700, right? And somebody hits that structure at 1700. Now, there's a certain amount of jitter on when that structure can come out of reinforcement. It can either be a couple of hours later or a couple of hours earlier. This is where it matters, because the actual rule is it chooses a correct time, and then it's the first time it's the first instance of that time coming out of reinforcement after the allotted time. It's not the same as pauses, because pauses work on Straunt. This is not the same. So if their timer is at 17, if I hit it at 1700 and it decides to roll at 1800, then that means that the timer will be in 25 hours, because it chose 1800, and the first 1800 after right now, which is 1700 and 24 hours, is 25 hours from now. So the timer will be 25 hours from now. If I hit that same site or that same structure and it rolls an hour early, it rolls 1600. Well, the next 1600 to happen is not 24 hours away. It's only 23 hours away. So the timer actually rolls over to the next 24-hour cycle. So the timer will actually come out 47 hours after you hit it, because that's the first time that 1600 happens after 24 hours after you hitting. Okay? So that's how timers work. So in this regard, this says, okay, it's going to choose a timer within 3 to 6 hours of its chosen time. If that chosen time, 50% of the time, that time will be chosen after. Now, unlike that reinforcement thing, this happens every time automatically, right? So what will happen is, it comes out of reinforcement. It'll come out of reinforcement sometime in this broad window. And then it will choose another time within this broad window, okay? If that new time is further ahead in time than the current timer, then it will come out in 3 days as you would expect. If the new time is earlier in the day than the current time, right? If it rolls exactly 2000 this time and then rolls 1700 the next time, well, that 1700 comes first, therefore it cannot come out in 3 days, so it drifts by 1 day. That is how the timer is expected to drift. Because this is what bothered me, because I was like, well, if it's jittering off the same time, how is it ever going to swap days? And the way it's going to swap days is if the jitter makes it so that the next timer is before 3 days are up, and therefore it has to cascade to the next day. So that is, as far as I understand, the mechanics behind why the structures will drift. The only cap will be on magmatic gas supply. Because magmatic gases are required for Athenors. Forgive me for not knowing a lot on this subject. I'm new to the game, but isn't putting timers on something that involves PvP kind of destructive to organic PvP? Yes and no. So, like, the problem is that, and this is true about any sort of open world PvP game, there is something to be said about open world PvP. But if you want really good, high quality fights, you need scheduled times. Like, almost every video game that has ever done like meaningful PvP in its game has some sort of timer based mechanic to ensure that everybody knows when to be there for the cool fight. So timers are something that is almost unavoidable in PvP games, because otherwise you have the problem where it's like, oh yeah, the person comes and smashes the thing before anybody can even... Is there not other formats of scheduled fights? Well, any scheduled fight in the future, predetermined at some point in the future, can be represented in the form of a timer. Because that's how the future works. Timers are how you wait for things in the future. So no, you can't schedule a fight without it also being able to have a timer. Even Dust did schedule fight timers for its planetary control mode. Yeah, oh yeah. Fuck. Mech Warrior Mercenaries 4. I remember my buddy playing that back in like 2003 or something like that. That had scheduled fights for meaningful conflict. There is theoretically another way of doing it, which are conflicting missions, right? In other words, like in a game in which people are receiving missions to go do something, you could give two different players missions to go to the same location with opposite objectives and hope that they fight it out. But that is significantly less trustworthy, reliable than timers. What happened on the 24th of September to cause Silicon PI to crash? I'm not 100% sure. Gives a theoretical physics. Time is an illusion. Lunchtime doubly so. You see that in a game, Faction Warfare. You 100% the system when the enemies are sleeping, no timer. That's actually a good point. Faction Warfare is a really good example of where time zone coverage is incredibly important because it doesn't really rely on timers for a lot of things. But instead, it relies on a burn that is happening constantly. The only game I know that did it well without timers was Dark Age of Camelot. That worked because there were 3 sides to the fight and you were in the middle of the night. It wouldn't be for... Yeah, exactly. So Dark Ages of Camelot was significantly closer to like a faction warfare sort of thing, where it's like this forever fight that never ends, but cannot be decisively won in a short period of time. Like victory it takes place over the course of hours or days instead of a fight. Will I see Skyhook timer anywhere in space, or will I have to warp to the Skyhook to see it? All vulnerable Skyhooks are visible through the agency and on the map, and all pilots belonging to the same corporations as the Skyhook owner with the correct roles can see the vulnerability timers on a new tab with the structure browsers. However, if you do not belong to the same corporation as the owner, and if it's currently invulnerable, you'll need to warp to the Skyhook to see its timer. Okay, so that's the end of this blog about it. Let's talk about all of the ways that this is worse than even what we thought originally. So let's look at the agency of this. This is the agency. It's where you can find out content in the game. If you go to resource harvesting, colony resources, this is the section on the agency. You can sort it by distance. You can sort it by sovereignty, claimed or unclaimed. Although it's really odd to think that there'd be unclaimed sovereign systems with skyhooks in them, but whatever. you filter colony resources per system or per planet. That's because based on this, because if you look, we can see like, okay, well, this system has a maximum population, or like, is that? Yeah, a maximum population of 30,000. And we can look in here like, well, here's 2,000, here's 4,000, here's 7,000, here's 6,000. So all of this combined equals 30,000. So if I go workforce output minimum 30 or like 29,000, then this 30,000 system will appear. But if I do it per planet, well, now no single planet has 29,000. So that doesn't work. But if I put in 7,000, now it does work. Okay? And it shows only the planets with that workforce. Okay? So that's how it's supposed to work. And we can look at anywhere, or we can only look at vulnerable skyhooks. Now, up until today, if you looked up vulnerable skyhooks, you would see nothing because there were no vulnerable skyhooks. And I can scroll down here and I can see, oh, this is the vulnerable skyhook. And I can see that it's vulnerable for 19 minutes. There are two things that I cannot see in this chart. Three things. One, I cannot see whether or not there is a skyhook that isn't vulnerable. I can see that this skyhook is vulnerable. I can see that this skyhook is vulnerable. But I can't even tell if this planet, Planet 5, has a skyhook. What is a skyhook? Let's step back. Skyhooks are a new mechanic that was introduced with Equinox as a way of providing complexity to nullsec. So basically the idea is that sovereign nullsec systems can replace their standard planetary customs offices with skyhooks that function exactly the same as normal customs offices, but also extracts new resources based on the planet type. So if it's, in this case, the skyhooks that we care about the most are going to be lava planets and ice planets, because lava planets provides magmatic gas and ice planets provide superionic ice. These are two new commodities that are both required for sovereignty updates and a new structure known as the Metanox moon drill, which allows for passive moon mining. In other words, skyhooks are both a way of adding more work and texture to nullsec, while at the same time introducing a very large passive income stream for those blocks that can maintain them. Now then, as I say, the key here is, like, right now, I can't actually tell if Planet 5 has a skyhook on it at all. Yesterday, I was trying to see, like, or 2 days ago, I was trying to see what does it look like when you go to a skyhook and fly to it? How can you see the timer on the skyhook? And I couldn't find a fucking skyhook. I went 5 different systems. I went to all the different planets that were registered as, like, being a system. So these things, like, when this planet says it's generating 680 magmatic gas per hour, this does not actually tell me whether or not the planet is actually producing. Can you crawl it with the ESI? I don't believe so. I don't even think the skyhooks are in the ESI at all. So I can't actually tell whether or not there's a skyhook that is here to be rated, right? Which means, of course, I can tell that this skyhook is vulnerable. Oh, wait, except for its timer is gone, so it's probably not vulnerable anymore. Yep, it's gone. So now I've got theft vulnerable skyhooks filtered, and I still can't see it because it's not vulnerable anymore. So this skyhook is vulnerable. One of the keys to this is that I actually don't know how old this data is. Most of the time on the agency, data is like 5 to 15 minutes old. This could be current and up to date, but it could also be that I just jump into the system and, oh, look, the skyhook just got finished. So this skyhook has 16 minutes of being vulnerable. So if I got to this system in the next 16 minutes, I could link into it and I could steal everything out of it if if it remains undefended for 10 minutes. However, at any given time, the original owner of this skyhook could link to it and 5 minutes later pull out all of the stuff and make it go back to being invulnerable again. So it takes 10 minutes for me to rob it. It takes 5 minutes for them to get it away. Now, I have to know, when I get there, I have to be lucky and see which skyhooks are vulnerable to me. So if I, like, let's say I yeet in, I can open it up and I can see if there's any skyhooks vulnerable to me. You know what I can't see? Skyhooks that are about to be vulnerable. So if I want to know where I could strike, I have to have people go to every single planet, every single lava and ice planet in an area, in order to find a skyhook that might be interesting to come out, unless I happen to catch it as it is already out, and hopefully not too late for the person who's linking to it to take it out within 5 minutes. So you have 5 minutes out of 3 days in order to catch it being done. Worst case scenario, 1 hour, best case scenario. And you get no warning for when it's going to get out, but all of the people that run and operate it can go and look to see when it comes out ahead of time. So the person who owns the skyhook can be there the second it comes out, link up to it, and it be gone in 5 minutes. The person who's wanting to raid it has to physically find it first. There's a part of me that says the 10 minutes out of date constantly, and you'll more likely than average get there too late. Yeah. Although I think that, like, if you lock into it within 1 minute of it, like if it's got 1 minute left and you lock in it, it's still, so it relies on espionage. That is a favorable way of putting it. It relies on information that a person that's invading via wormholes or yeets simply will not have at their disposal. Which goes back to what we were saying earlier last time, which is that the skyhook rating system has at best basically become a way for null groups to fuck with null groups that are nearby them, right? Because that's when you have the idea of espionage. That's like, what's the point of espionaging to find out when the skyhooks come out of reinforcement if you're relying on things like filaments and wormholes to get there? You're only going to care about looking into the skyhooks and when they come out, so that way you can be prepared for it if you have a reliable way of getting there, which usually means that they're nearby you. So you have less than an hour to get this thing up and set up on it, and it to be undefended, and the system to be up to date, and they didn't already link to it. And yes, correct. If you get all that done, if you successfully find a system that has a skyhook that is vulnerable with the agency that's not up to date, that still has time to get it, and you link to it, and no one comes and stops you for 10 minutes, you too can have 50% of what they produced in the last 3 days. If you fail to do this, then either the owners of it will get it in 5 minutes, or they could just fuck off and ignore it, and the entire thing just locks down for them to be able to get it in 3 days. Easy peasy. No problems. Why does anybody upset? The other thing about this, though, here is the other weird thing, okay? There's another piece to all of this, and this is a minor. I wanted to go over all of the major pieces a little bit ahead of time. Here's my minor squabble. Let's look here for a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold on. Ah, Hold on, TU Tech. I ran into a problem yesterday, or the other day when I was looking into this. I need to see if I can... Oh, nope, that's not going to work. Oh, wait, this one... Now it's doing it right. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9... Wait, yeah, 10, 11, 12. So, okay. I jumped into a system when I was going and exploring, and because it said that the system had ice, and then when I jumped into the system, I could not find the ice planet because the list didn't display all of the planets because the agency doesn't always display all of the results that are available. Now, they may have fixed that a little bit, or maybe I did something wrong before, but that was wild to me. 3 days of production isn't nothing, but it's geared counterplay seems one or two options so far. One, you happen to be in the area for opportunity content. I think, yeah. And I think the one is actually what they rely on. I think that they're expecting people to jump in and be like, get that one. And at the very least, that allows the defenders to know which ones are the ones that can be gone after. It's so weird. All right. But the other thing that's worth noting is, if you know, like I said, I can't tell even if there is a skyhook on these things unless the skyhook happens to be vulnerable. Does it give a region-wide alert like ESS if it's being siphoned? It gives, from my understanding, it still gives the same alerts as before. So it gives like an alert to 1 jump away after 3 minutes, 2 jumps away after 6 minutes, and 9 jumps away after 3 minutes or something like that, or 9 minutes. I don't know how that relates to people linking into their own skyhook with ACLs. If I had like 1 hour warning that the skyhook was about to be vulnerable, you could potentially plan to... Exactly. If nothing else, the smallest fix that I think would make this better is if you could see... Well, first of all, I need to be able to see... Orbital skyhooks should be... If I click on any, then only planets with orbital skyhooks should be on this list. Like, I shouldn't get planets without orbital skyhooks. But at the very least, there should be a choice to let me find all of the planets with orbital skyhooks. But better would be to know when a skyhook is going to be becoming vulnerable within an hour. So given that people might swarm vulnerable skyhooks, owners are more likely to secure them immediately. Yep. And, well, it's interesting because now they have to raid their own skyhooks, whereas before they could just, as long as it wasn't raided, they could just pull it out via ACL. Now they get 50% of it via ACL, and 50% of it requires the busy work of one of their own people going and linking to it for 5 minutes. Okay. Let's see. I'm looking through the list of the patch notes. I think we just covered basically everything. I do like it seems relatively unrewarding and super RNG based for filament fleets, but I hate being in nullsec with those, so it makes me happy. Just make it so that signal filaments have a greater than average chance of jumping you into a system with an active skyhook. There you go. Done. Ship it. Let's move on. I would go into the Crimson Harvest stuff, but I think I'm going to try to fly around a little bit after that. So let's go ahead and jump into... No, give them nothing and take from them everything. Wait. Oh, the filaments? I mean, I understand the frustration. Okay, so EVE Galaxy Conquest. This is something that has kind of gone underneath a lot of people's radar, but this is something that they've been working on for a couple of years. This is their new free-to-play 4X mobile game coming out on the 29th. Now, before I get too deep into this, just realize that, like, it is basically a very traditional-looking online free-to-play mobile game for all of the good and the bad that entails. So, we did watch the trailer at the very beginning. Clone of Vega conflict. There is a lot of different conflict war games out there. I've played a couple of them because people keep on trying to get me to try out their games. But yeah, an NOH gacha game in EVE. That's a cool idea. Now, so first and foremost, the one thing I can say for sure about the EVE Galaxy Conquest is that whatever its story is has nothing to do with EVE Online lore, right? New Eden, as we know it, the Tranquility server is a totally separate thing. It is so far separate that I don't even think it's fair to try to, like, draw things into it. I know I've been one of those conspiracy people that try to look at stuff from EVE Echoes as a way of figuring things out in EVE Online. That is not going to happen here. This is clearly a totally separate timeline in which the factions have banded together to kick out the empires, and now the empires are attempting to attack inward. Now, one of the things about it is this appears to be a scenario-based game as opposed to like an ongoing living universe-based game. So the idea is that the when you join the game, you join one of the 4 empires, and unlike EVE, your choice in empire chooses what side you're on. You have to, like, there's only faction warfare in this game. So if you join Caldari, then you are part of the Caldari. Caldari people are your allies. Non-Caldari people are your enemies. You are competing for the grand prize. And in this case, the grand prize, as far as I understand, is conquering of Jedha. You know, they've taken over Jedha, and that's now become like the goal for the empires. So the idea is that this game will play out multiple times where the player base compete, and then there's a winner, and then the entire thing resets and starts over again. So I don't think that we're going to see any like meaningful lore or developments or anything. And there's other things about this that kind of shows that while it is tangentially related to the lore, there is some fast and looseness, or at least alternative universe-ness being played out here. So there is a way to pre-register if you go to evegalaxyconquest.com, and the more registrations that they get, the more people that we are here. Now, what's interesting, this goes into what I was just saying. 100,000 followers reward is Commander Santamona, right? Now, and we see a picture of Santamona here. She's got an SOE jacket on. We can pull up a bigger picture of her. Here is Santamona. I don't fully know what's going on in some of these pictures, and somebody who's played it might correct me, but we can see here that, yeah, the whole whale game's main objective is to take control of the economic capital of EVE. That's true. So this guy, Serb, is a Galente guy, even though you'd think that Serb would be Caldari. So this is where things get confusing, okay? This is Santa Mona. Santa Mona has a logo that makes her look like she's part of Sanchez Nation. She's got an SOE badge on, but if we look up Santa Mona, where is it? Let's just real quick for funsies go to universe.eveonline.com and search for the name Santa Mona. Santa Mona Sarpati, the Reverend Mother and CEO of the Sisters of Eve. So we have the sister of the head of the Serpentis, a woman who has worked with, and less so recently, with Sliffy, the head of the Intaki Syndicate, who's wearing a Sisters of Eve jacket, but listed as belonging to the Sanchez Nation. This is what I mean by I don't think that there's too much to infer from the lore or anything like that here. Because if there was something to infer, it would be this and... Former SOE turned Serpentis. Well, it'd be Sancha. Wasn't there some lore about someone like that? Promotions, it's going to be one of those auto battlers with a hero. Yep. Who made this game? CCP. So these screenshots came from the Discord. I just grabbed random people's stuff. I don't have all of the who posted what, but I also don't necessarily want to like out them for their images. So we have the Apocalypse, which my understanding is the only battleship right now, and the capacity to invent it if you have all the right stuff. So there's like a manufacturing thing. You have, this is a battle report. You can see here that there is quantum credits. Here's another commander. And this allows you to look at all the different commanders. Anybody who's had any amount of experience with mobile games recently, these, like, immediately, you know what kind of game this is. So, I guess that is what it is. Shoot, I had other pictures, but... This is kind of what it looks like. Hold on. Let me pull up another one. So with this image, we can see that, you know, there's different territories that you put things in the hexes. We have the currencies. We have Plex. We have the credits. And we have normal ISK. So there's quantum credits, Plex, and ISK. And then there's all these different reagents and stuff that you're collecting, I'm assuming, by having different territory and different mining fields and stuff like that. You've got the different commanders, with one of the commanders being listed as auto AI, with the other ones not being listed. It looks like Starfleet Fleet Commander clone, especially with the maps. I haven't played Fleet Commander, but I have played some other war games that look basically exactly like this. So, it is coming out on the 28th. It is, I am, for one, going to be, or sorry, 26th? No, it is the 28th, right? I think it's the 28th. Uh, 29th. CCP Games announces the official launch date for EVE Galaxy Conquest, the free-to-play 4X strategy game that brings the intense player-driven conflict of New Eden to mobile devices. Aspiring champions can prepare for galactic warfare on October 29th, 2024, when the game launches worldwide on iOS and Android. So it looks to me like you build up your fleet, you build up your commanders. Chances are, from my understanding, the commanders are like the gotcha portion of it. I was trying to find like pictures of people like opening up packs of commanders or recruiting them, but I couldn't necessarily find any pictures of that. So, but I can only guess that the captains and stuff are part of the gotcha component to it. So you'll like get random ones potentially. But look, I know that there's a lot of misgivings about mobile games, but I will say this: mobile games are very, very successful and very, very lucrative. So, like, this has a very, like, a pretty decent chance of actually being successful, even without any of our support. Like, mobile games are successful and they make a lot of money. And this fits into that niche in a way that a lot of people might really go in for. And that will introduce them to the EVE Online universe. Genshin Impact and EVE Online collab when? Maybe soon. So the optimist says that this is going to A, get CCP a lot of money from the EVE, B, expand the EVE IP and its visibility to the world, and C, there will be, if this is successful, a good percentage of the player base of this game that get into it and then like vision themselves as being one of these commanders and then getting into EVE Online in order to become one of those commanders, right? There feels like there's a natural pipeline from playing this mobile game to participating in EVE Online, the main game. You could even say that it could go the mobile game to Echoes to the main game, but we'll have to see. Especially if they do some sort of like cross-promotional thing where progress in this game gets you something in EVE Online, which will encourage people that play this game to then try out EVE Online. But here's my less optimistic point of view. Everything I just said is true. However, gacha games not only make a lot of money, but they make a lot of money by putting the screws on the player and under the fundamental understanding that buying power is not only okay, but is expected. Okay? You can play things like Raid Shadow Legends as a free-to-play game, but you're behind unless you pay money, to the point where there is almost zero stigma for people buying power in games like this. It is the expectation. EVE Online, the main game, Tranquility, resists that notion. There is no RMT. You're not supposed to be able to just like turn raw money into power into the game. You can buy Plex, but as we all know, Plex into ISK doesn't necessarily equate power. However, Project Awakening is much more focused on the idea of using real-life finances to project force into the game, much like EVE Galaxy Conquest. So my concern isn't that EVE Galaxy Conquest is going to be shit. My concern is that the EVE Galaxy Conquest pipeline leads people to Awakening, not EVE Online. But we'll have to see how that plays out. One thing I find very bizarre, so going back to what we were talking about earlier, right? They originally said that the transition was going to happen in November. the transition for sovereignty is now going to be on the where is it? The 29th of October. So we have a relatively unexplained change where they said that the expansion is coming out in November and that the grace period ends with the expansion, which is in November. And now the grace period has been put on the 29th of October, which they never actually state as being like a change. But the Chinese market is okay with spending money to win in games. Yeah, and that mentality is spreading. Is it a coincidence that EVE Online is going back on what they said, or changing the details of what they said, to make it so that it occurs on the exact same day as EVE Galaxy Conquest is released? Now, okay, am I suggesting that there's some crazy link between EVE Galaxy Conquest and EVE Online? No. What I'm saying is that them as a company may be thinking about their big releases. And so I guess pessimistically, I could say that this just means nothing, or there's some sort of bizarre pressure that made them switch it to 29th. But if I could be optimistic for a second, this might suggest that we're getting the expansion earlier than we expected, right? This could very well be that, like, the expansion, the Vanguard update, the EVE Galaxy Conquest, all this stuff is all coming online on the 29th. And that's why we're changing the date. I don't know either way. I do know that it stands out to me that CCP changes the date without really admitting to the fact that they changed the date. And the date that they changed it to happens to correspond to their announced launch date of their other product. We'll see whether or not that relates to anything on the 29th, I guess. Right. Probably wanted a big release day to show their investors. Exactly. Yeah, it might just be like a package deal, like for marketing or for just like logistics or like how they function as a business. But we don't know. Optimism seldom seems the correct selection with CCP. Yeah, but I don't know if I necessarily call this optimism, per se. I don't know, man. I am definitely going to be trying out the EVE Galaxy Conquest. If you're interested in coming and taking part with us, we'll be forming up a team and participating. But mostly out of morbid curiosity than anything else. Although I have submitted to potentially be a content creator, so we'll see. If it's, the EVE Universe show covers information about EVE Online. I have actually wanted to cover out more stuff about EVE Echoes, but like that's its own. It's so hard to like keep track of that. It's such a parallel track that has no media crossover that it's hard to. But I think the EVE Galaxy Conquest is going to be, it's produced by CCP. It's very likely to be like a more of a concern for EVE Online players. Yeah. So that is EVE Galaxy Conquest. That is what I know so far. There are people currently playing it and talking about it on the Discord. The rest of us will get it at the end of the month. There we go. It's hard to be optimistic with CCP right now. Same with my optimism for Blizzard. If they don't create good gameplay, I just don't play. I mean, look, it's been a weird time for EVE Online. The Equinox expansion has definitely been pretty weak. Havoc was also had its own issues. They have put themselves in a make it or break it period again with this new expansion. The last two times that they were at a make it or break it point, they did manage to pull off some pretty awesome stuff. So it could go either way right now. But let me tell you, there's a lot of angst within the player community at the moment with EVE Online, and I feel it. I'm part of it at this point. Like, there's been so many unforced errors or little things that it's like, man, what can we do to get back on track? But who knows? Who knows? It could all be for naught. In addition to upcoming, didn't the Deathless just provide some new tech to SOE? The Deathless provided net resonators to all pirate factions to make it so that they no longer require the doodads from the different empires to build their ships. You just need their own net resonators. So the Deathless provided all of the pirate factions with net resonators. It was just the SOE got called out because of their working with the Deathless. All right, next. There is a thing happening. The Crimson Harvest is one, but we'll talk about that later. As you may have heard, rumors of fucker maneuvers in the Altair system. I became interested in those rumors, blah, blah, blah. So if you go to, we actually played around with this, I think, the other day, but if you go near in Zarzak right now, there is that structure that is decloaking that we've been monitoring. And last week, I think it was, this started to appear when you get close to that structure, which is, this is the head of the Harada Oki caravan, which is the fucker group that joined the Deathless. So the caravan master says, curious. She's also, by the way, the lady who was coordinating the anti-drifter efforts. But she says, we've been safeguarding some items in the Deathless's behalf, items that could help the Circle scientists unlock this structure's secrets. On YC126, 1008, a clan is forming a caravan outside of Altair 12 Moon 2 Thucker Mix Factory. Join them if you want to help make sure they reach Zarzak safely. So what this means is that in 5 days, as of this recording, there is a caravan who will... What? The Deathless Circle is his faction, basically. The Deathless Circle is all of the Deathless's allies together. So CCP has done this kind of thing before. You know, we had the Upwell, I can't remember which Upwell group it was. Wasn't Creodon. But there was a, not Interbus. There was a, maybe the structure will decloak next Tuesday. It's possible. But we had the caravan from Upwell that got raided and destroyed. We've had caravan, like all the way back to Rubicon, when we had a caravan of players that got massacred in Nullsec during the event that led to the ghost sites appearing. Historically, I don't believe that there has been a successful NPC caravan in a very long time. So and from what I've seen so far on the forums and elsewhere, this one does not appear that it's going to be much successful either. There's a lot of people that are showing hostility to the pirates. So chances are this is also going to get knocked down. Now, what does that mean? CCP likes to... So think about it from a story point of view, okay? Right now, the Deathless and his dudes have their own stuff, and they're trying to coordinating with it. It's just like with the Upwell stuff, actually. So with the Upwell stuff, when we blew it up, we found plans for things like that would later become the Skyhook and the Squall and other stuff like that. So the idea was that they were working on these schematics. They were going to transport that information. We raided it. Therefore, we were able to capture that information for ourselves. And that was CCP's way of kind of handing us that information from Upwell ahead of time. So in this case, what we're seeing is that there are items that are being held by the Harada Oki, which are important to the Deathless because of the structure that is decloaking. And this caravan is supposed to be, from what I can understand based on what she's saying, that caravan is bringing that stuff to Zarzak. So when this inevitably dies, that means whatever was in it will drop, which will give us a lot of information about stuff. So the point here is that what I see is that CCP is setting up the justification that whatever tech the Deathless is doing is going to become exposed and, more importantly, made available to the player base. This is important because, again, the winter expansion is supposed to be nullsec focused and likely will key in directly into the Skyhook changes and everything else that we've been seeing, right? We were even earlier speculating that the reason why they moved it up early is so that that way things are nice and done by the time it was ready, or by the time the winter expansion is rolling out. So one of the things that we are kind of assuming is that this structure that is decloaking is somehow related to nullsec sovereignty, which means at some point this tech has to go from being deathless only to being broader available. And I believe that this convoy is going to be kind of the mechanic by which that begins to happen, right? This will crack open what it is that they've been getting into and give us the opportunity to both help the deathless and take the technology for ourselves. Yeah, I mean, like, yes, if they wanted the convoy to be successful, then they would just do it. And in fact, worth noting, they did do that in the previous iteration. Once the first convoy was destroyed, they started launching up convoys at least once a day with no warning. And some of them were caught and killed, and some of them weren't. But yeah, no, NPC actors for the next, like, week or two were doing nearly daily convoy launches with NPC actors, you know, RP'd up and everything, convoys, where, you know, people were watching the critical system and blowing them up. Yeah, you helped escort one. Exactly. So players and drifters are going to intercept the convoy. Good theory. To be fair, this event, entire event, they kind of ruined the fun of finding info by announcing it to everyone. I don't know. This has been an interesting one because it's like all the way up to the map and whatnot. Every step of the way, it's been pretty simple to figure out what's going on, but it also hasn't given us any answers whatsoever. So I wouldn't put it past. So here's my tinfoil. Okay, here's my tinfoil. You ready? The Deathless isn't fucking stupid. He knows how this works. The Thucker aren't idiots. They know how this works. This is a setup. We are meant to get this information. This is an intentional whoopsie-daisy by the Deathless to get like questionable technology into Capsuleer hands, with the idea that getting it into Capsuleer hands will cause chaos with the Empires. That is my actual guess about this. That the Deathless and the Harada Oki know absolutely full well what will happen when you tell everybody that the convoy is happening on this day at this location. That's what's up! Exactly. All right, so if you are interested, I do want to move on because there is Crimson Harvest stuff to go into. But if you are interested on the notion, the convocation notion, hold on real quick, which I will post a link to this page. So this is my complete timeline of events where I have assembled everything up to 9:19. I need to update this actually. This is 9:19. So it all starts with in 2015 with the founding of Upwell Consortium, but this is basically every single news item that has happened in the last in the last decade or so. Much of this is leading up to exactly the things that we're talking about. So we can see, like, some people were talking about Thucker earlier, and the idea that, like, oh, like, our Thucker with the empires are the Thucker with other places. So we can see, like, okay, well, in YC121, which is 2019, that's when we see the Thucker ship projects. Then around that same time, Thuckers were related to the con-enslavers and the captured prisoners. That was what led to, like, that was related to the Dread attacks and the, oh god, what was his name? Chuckade. But we see, like, Krulifer organization raids Angel Cartel smuggling bases on Skarkon 2. RSS tactily supporting Thucker gangsters, says anti-Krulifer group. So Krulifer is fighting Thuckers. And then Krumatar block finances of Krusel and Thucker mercenaries. Thucker Tribe Council Caravan declines petition on Krulifer organizations linked to Sekal Clan, not a matter for great caravans. Sekal Clan is, of course, one of their more... the anti-Krulifer group in question being the Bosnia Accords. Oh, yeah, okay, which is a player group. So there is this kind of conflict between the Thucker through the Sekal Clan and the Angel Cartel. However, we see where is it? Angel Cartel assassinates Krulifer organization's top underboss in Inur system at meeting with Thucker clanners. So Angel Cartel, Krulifer organization, and Thucker were all in Inur system. And Inur system is where Leopold and Valari was, which is one of the Deathless's agents, also known as the Peacock. So what we're seeing here is kind of this in 2021, YC123. So 3 years ago or more, we start to see the beginnings of the negotiations to kind of end the conflict between the Thuckers and the Angels. Uh-oh. Gosh. There is one problem with having so much on one page, which is that it takes forever to search for things. So yeah. Let's... Can I just hit Control F? How did I search earlier? There it is. Thucker. Thucker, I barely even know her. Thucker, Harada Oki Caravan Master dismisses reports of Angel Cartel and Grissus Pirates agents meeting aboard flagship. So again, Harada Oki ends up being one of the major groups that joins the Deathless. And so this is more about how the Deathless kind of brought together these different pirate groups. Angel Cartel and Thucker Renegade clans reportedly sharing secret navigation and spatial anomaly data sets. That is, of course, them hunting for Zarzak with the invitation. Tribal Council meets over Turner Stargate and Angel Cartel and Deathless Circle linked to Thucker Renegades raised. Thucker tribes clashes with society conscious thought over suggested sharing of wormhole navigation data. Thucker tribe ice mining operations in USEABLE 9 repels Angel Cartel raid with heavy pirate losses. Yeah, Capsulators, here we go. So this is the actual thing. Capsulators approaching the locations where engine... Oh, no, this is for the siege. Malaya Harada is the caravan master of the Harada Oki, a Deathless Circle-aligned Thucker caravan. She appears to be hunkered down inside the fulcrum along with many other Deathless operatives. So yeah, they've been around for a little while. They are part of the Deathless thing. So if you are supportive of the Deathless, you'll want the Thucker caravan to make it home to Zarzak. For everybody else, blow them up and rob their stuff, I guess is the best thing to say. I still think the 5D chess master thing isn't that interesting. It is. So the only thing that's kind of interesting is I know I earlier said that there is no lore connection between EVE Galaxy Conquest and EVE Online. But I would not be surprised if when EVE Galaxy Conquest comes out, the Deathless is the thing that, you know, the Deathless group is the group that brought together all the pirates for that counterattack, that the Deathless kind of took over. And that's who is the pirate unifier in Galaxy Conquest. But I don't think it's going to go any further than that, even if it does. So yeah. If you want to look more into the lore of the last few years, this is a good place to get it. I also have my iceberg and the speed run. If anybody's interested in an episode where we literally just walk through this timeline from start to finish, please make sure to let me know in a comment, because that's a pretty big ask. It's something I've been tempted to do on several occasions, but it's a big one. So it'd be something that like I need to know that people actually want for me to do. I wonder if this will affect the Mimitar events. I forget which months. All of the Empire events have been shut off. There are no, so Mimitar Liberation Day, all of those are now just basically skin sales and nothing else. What's Ragtag? What's up, Ragtag? Let's see. Anything else? Let's talk about the Crimson Harvest. About time. The Crimson Harvest has arrived. It's going to be going on from today until the 5th of November. So it's just over a month of time to get it done. There are some minor changes, but largely this is the exact same as last year. So I am not going to make like a big how to do good in the Crimson Harvest, because effectively if you can go worse than Skinner sales, yeah. If you go back to either the 2023 or 2022 Crimson Harvest, this should be basically identical to those. Okay, so let's look into it. The Crimson Harvest returns from the 3rd to the 5th of November, 3rd of October to the 5th of November. Yeah, Crimson Harvest how-to video. I have a Crimson Harvest. There are plenty of Crimson Harvest how-to videos. Marauder is the only answer to how to be good at any site. Incorrect. Capsuleers across New Eden must choose a side, battling twisting foes and seizing dark rewards in combat and hacking sites. From high-sector wormhole systems, the war rages with the fiercest clashes in Delve and in the Ugidi, Angelus, and Essen constellation. Whether you seek solo combat or deadlier team encounters, greater challenges await those brave enough to dive deeper into the mysteries of the void. So there's already people complaining about the fact that yesterday, whoops. Crimson Harvest looms. This says pilots inhabiting high-sec, low-sec, null-sec, and wormhole space can tackle a variety of combat sites with the most valuable spoils lurking in Blood Raider-controlled systems in the Delve region. Oh. Eugidi, Angelus, and Essen constellations. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Where is it? Yeah, so the pre-event blog said derelict, but then when it came out, they updated it to be those constellations. Now, let's look into these real quick. Eugidi is in Metropolis. Angelus is in Metropolis. I think they're all Metropolis, aren't they? Yep, they're all in Metropolis. So the original thing said derelict. Yeah. So it would have been any of these sorts of systems within derelict, but instead it'd be like this area, but instead it is in Metropolis over here. Now, why is that? This is a nature, and this is a symptom of what happened to events. Basically, it used to be that we had well, there was a long time where CCP didn't do events at all. In 2016, I think it was, CCP started doing like regular events, and the first one was the Crimson Harvest. By about 2020, 2021, I think it was, they had actually built out an entire calendar of events to the point that I actually had created the calendar of events, right? So we have the Easter event, which was Garistus focused. We have the Valentine's Day event, which was Angel Cartel and Serpentis focused. We had the 4 different Empire Day events. So like almost every month of the year, there was some sort of event, and it had different empires or different pirate factions or groups related to each one, right? However, oh gosh, hold on. Let me double check something real quick. YouTube. Scope. Egg. It was Chemeltech, by the way. That was the convoy that got destroyed. But, so 2 years ago, they actually changed the way that these events worked, right? So I'm about to show you something. Just bear in mind that when this came out, this event, this was not the very first event for the Easter event, okay? But this was what happened 2 years ago during the Easter event, okay?
Residents and workers at the Jita 44 Trade Hub were astounded by the sight of hundreds of capsules exiting the station this morning. After the apparently unauthorized mass launch, the capsules quickly warped off into space before they could be contained by approaching Caldari Navy patrols. Caldari authorities have described the mass capsule launch as a combined theft, sabotage, and escape operation. believed to be a cover for Garista's agents being hunted in the Jita 44 station. The identity of those making their escape using these capsules remains mostly unknown, with indications many of the capsules were launched as automated decoys. However, the Caldari state has issued a general arrest warrant for Commander Ezri Hakuzosu, a military director of one of the Caldari Navy's research and development groups. Sources have informed the scope that Commander Hakuzosu is suspected to be the ringleader of a group of sleeper agents and defectors working deep undercover within the Caldari state over a considerable period of time. Commander Ezri Hakuzosu had been military director of a Navy research group on advanced capital ship construction and development, recently focusing on the venerable Phoenix-class Caldari dreadnoughts. It is assumed that at least some of the leaked information involves advances in capital shipbuilding technology. Caldari state officials urge all Caldari citizens to do their duty and hunt down these capsules and destroy them on sight. Capsules have been seen orbiting planets and moons and need to be scanned or probed down. Keys found in the wreckage of these capsules have been confirmed to access Garista's hunt outposts, which seem to be the escaping capsule rendezvous points. Any recoverable data or corpses are to be retrieved and handed over to the Caldari Navy through established trading protocols. There are indications that information of critical strategic importance to Caldari state interests was stolen by the infiltration group, with other empires and pirate organizations apparently making bids for any stolen information through the capsuleer market. The regions around Venal have seen a significant increase in Caldari Navy and Garista's activity, as ships on both sides attempt to scan down and retrieve the hijacked capsules. Occasional clashes between the fleets have also been reported. The Venal region seems to be the main destination of the hijacked capsules, supporting the theory of Garista's involvement in this operation. Like many outlaw groups, the Garista's pirates appear to have been upgrading and expanding their capital ship construction operations recently. There are also reported sightings from across the Venal region of some kind of mobile military shipyard guarded by Garista's forces. Dedicated Garista's capital building shipyards have also been encountered, and capsuleers are advised to show extreme caution when approaching these heavily defended installations. The scope will continue to report as the situation develops. This is Alton Havery reporting for the scope.
So the point here is that, well, actually, hold on real quick. Eve, Uni, the Hunt. Really? Stop. There we go. Really? Whatever. Eve, University, the Hunt. There we go. Whew. So the hunt had been going on since 2016, right? Almost every year until 2022. Now, in 2022, which was that trailer year, basically, okay, hold on. First of all, they weren't going to do events. Then they started doing events. And then they ended up with this like calendar year of events, like I just described earlier. So in 2022, they were starting to focus more on, well, from 2020 on, and really 2019 on with the Triglavians, there's this big shift from CCP into storytelling. So including the idea of like narrative arcs, and the story arcs really came into popularity in 2022. I think it was when they really started talking about it. So the idea was that they took the events that were already happening and they tied them to current events. So while the hunt did happen every Easter, this hunt was because a whole bunch of capsules escaped Jita 44 because there was somebody infiltrating the Caldari state to get them get secret information on their plans to revitalize the Phoenix, which would later become the Dreadnought capital construction balance pass, and then of course Navy dreadnoughts that came out later. So like what was an annual thing turned into an in the moment thing, right? This happens every year. This happens because this particular thing happened. Same is true with, to a lesser extent, with the Valentine's Day event, which was an annual celebration between the Serpentis and the Angel Cartel. But in 2022, that's when Rafik Zohar went and captured the compression technology, which would later become like the compression for orcas and stuff like that. So they were releasing information and stuff about the compression changes, and that was tied into the Valentine's Day event. This also introduced these two characters to us, both Rafik Zohar and Esri Hakazotsu, who have both become critical members in the whole Deathless plot. They are the Angel Cartel and the Guristas representatives to the Deathless, more or less, at this point. So the problem, and then as the year went on, they kind of did this for the whole year. But then, well, and in addition to that, they also mixed in events that were unrelated to the annual events, right? That were unrelated to the calendar events or holidays or something like that. Just one-offs about things that are happening in the game. Just, events unfolding, right? So the problem is that by 2023, they have apparently changed their mind about how they're going to be doing stuff. And so the team that was working on events starts to be shifted over to live event team, which is subtly different. Like, so the events that were annual, they try to repurpose them to make them current events, but that only got them so far. And within a year, they had started to just completely split that off. And so now that team is working on whole new events, things like Shadow Wars and stuff, right? So the existing events, as they were handed over to another team, which from my understanding was part of the marketing team. So don't have a lot of dev assets, don't have a lot of resources at their disposal to change, modify, or upgrade the events. They're just told to maintain it. Now, most of the events, unfortunately, because of the choices that they made in 2022, became untenable, right? Like, they kind of took the hunt, which was an annual thing, and they blew its load by saying, no, it's actually not an annual thing. It's a thing that happened in this moment because Esri was there. And so I think that that's why when they switched over, they kind of let all of those events fall to the wayside. The events that were tied, that are now left in a state where they are so intrinsically tied to what what was happening in that moment exactly, that it would require efforts to untangle it. And so they didn't. And those events are gone now. And that really sucks because, like, for instance, the Easter event was the only time that you could actually get implants out of your pod. And there's other things too, like the modules that dropped into different ones and implants that dropped in different events. You know, to see them gone completely is a loss. But the Crimson Harvest is one of the, it is the most popular event. It is the first one of their events. It is the iconic Eve event. It is also, hold on, but did we figure out the weird astrology crap that came up like 3 weeks ago? Just curious, since I'm behind on some of your streams. Yes, it was the attack of the drifters on Zarzak, because they are attempting to access a secret structure that has now just begun decloaking in Zarzak itself. So the Crimson Harvest, by the time that the Crimson Harvest, date, month, the year of the attack, the date of the attack, by the Drifter calendar, right? So where was I? All right. The Crimson Harvest, on the other hand, has kind of this established lore in the fact that it happens every year. In fact, let me play you the trailer. What? No, not now. Here we go.
The broadcast you are about to see is of graphical nature.
The Crimson Harvest started in Dust 514, actually. I don't believe you. I mean, I think it was when 514 first was still live, but I mean, I was there the first year of Crimson Harvest. Please. Am I learning something new today? I should not say I don't believe you to Lorelite so flippantly. I agree. I do like when Santa Claus comes to town personally. Yes. I used to say, like, oh, when are we going to get the Garistus bunny? And then we did. And now we don't have it anymore. But, okay, so this is from 8 years ago. So this is like the beginning of the Crimson Harvest. And it kind of puts in the standard of what is the Crimson Harvest all about.
The broadcast you are about to see is of graphical nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Bloody Omer ran away, hiding from the light of day. Made a base out in the night, far away from the Empire's might. Holders think they all are safe, protected by the Empire's grace. Silly people, they should know. You shall reap just what you sow. Bloody Omer is coming back. Monsters from the endless black. Wading through the crimson flood. Omer has come to drink your blood.
Clearly made to ignite terror, it is confirmed that Omer Sarakusa is the person seen in this disturbing Blood Raiders broadcast. The identity and fate of his captives have not been disclosed. Amar authorities are urging its citizens to stay vigilant and not to give in to what they refer to as acts of heresy. This is Alton Havery, reporting for The Scope.
All right. Now, so that's kind of what the Crimson Harvest is all about, okay? The Crimson Harvest is called the Crimson Harvest because the Blood Raiders every year go on a great harvest for blood. And so this has been going on since 2016. However, in 2000... Hold on. Actually just look up game events. Post from CCP Frame, first posting prior to the scope video. Oh boy. So as we can see, the Crimson Harvest was around since 2016 and was ongoing. However, in 2021, yes. So up until 2018, the sites were just a static site and away we go. October 2015 from CCP Frame. All right, hold on. Huh. There it is. Look at that. The Crimson Harvest. Blood Raider Gauntlet begins October 22nd. But this was at the same time. Right? 8 years ago is the same amount of time as this. I think that those are the same. It's the same year. So I wouldn't necessarily say that one was first. They both happened kind of together. I think that's fair. But either way, that it does point out that there has been a strong connection to like Clone Blanks and Dust 514 and stuff and shooters. Nope, Eve Crimson Harvest started in 2016 for events. Okay. Then wait. Then why is this October 20th, 2015? Yeah. Crimson Harvest, Gauntlet sites, in-game with Blood Raider themed rewards in 2015. Even though they don't have a Crimson Harvest 2015 on here. Because Dust was part of Eve. Well, yeah, but this is the Eve Online one. In-game, yeah, Blood Raider Gauntlet sites. Blood Raider skins. These gauntlets will appear in your overview. So yeah, there was an event in 2015. And this is, by the way, the first introduction of the Cerebral Accelerator, too, for the record. Fun fact. At any rate, okay, so the point is that in 2021, or 2020 rather, the Crimson Harvest took a turn, which is starting in the 2021 or 2020, you could choose to either join the Silver Flame, the Shining Flame, or the Blood Raiders. And then you'd have to do sites on the opposite side in order to gain points. And there were 2 different tracks based on which side you joined, et cetera, et cetera. And that has created the standard by which the event has behaved ever since. Okay. So now we choose from 2 different sides. The next year after this, in 2021, because of just updating things, they changed it from the Shining Flame, which is there's a whole reason why it went with the Shining Flame at that time, because there was a lot of stuff involving Flosa Swin and House Sorum operating and Artoshipper operating within the war zone with their clone troopers, which is Shining Flames. But by the next year, we see the rise of Saint Tetramon as an organization within the Amar, you know, the return of Saint Tetramon and the building of their fortress. And so at that point, Saint Tetramon took over as the Op4 for the Blood Raiders Crimson Harvest, and it's been that way ever since. Yeah. Then in 2022. So remember, in 2022, everything was tied into the lore. So the question was, what was happening in the lore at that moment? What was happening was the shipcaster, or the pre-uprising events. So we had the decloaking of the structure in Othanoon, and we have the Amar constructing their transmuters in Egmar, Vard, and Turner. Now we know that Turner eventually destabilizes and blows up and causes Turner to become forever altered. Egmar and Vard, their structures were able to be shut down successfully. This leads to the Shadow Wars, where the Mimitar and the Amar have developed stellar transmuter technology and mixed that with the novel transportation technology that the Caldari had developed from stealing it from the Triglavians in their secret facility in Alphanoon. They combine that together to make the shipcasters that we have today. Okay. Why am I bringing all this up? Because I said Egmar, Vard, and Turner. And now you know why those are the three constellations that the Blood Raiders are focused on. See, it's very hard for the team to just be like, oh yeah, and there's a whole bunch of eggs still escaping from Jita with references to them being in Jita in the logs and stuff. That's harder to pull off. You know, the whole thing about hunting down the stuff for the compressor to return the goods to Upwell, none of that's going to work because that's already over. But the Blood Raiders, all they did was they made them mostly pay attention to the critical systems that had the stellar transmuters in them. So they can just scratch off the serial numbers and rerun the Crimson Harvest and change nothing. And yeah, it is kind of weird that those are the three constellations in which they are stronger, but it's just, that's the way it is. And that's why it is. So it's not just the constellations that they it's not just Ugidi, Angelus, and Essen, right? That's almost coincidental. It's because if we look up Vard, Vard is in wait. I'm dumb. Am I dumb? Am I dumb? Are they spawning in the head? Egmar is Angelus constellation. Turner is Ugidi constellation. So then the one that's off is Essen? Yeah. Wait, why is it Essen? Is it actually Essen or is it still a mistake? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, Lowerlight. It's changed in 2022 to Turner, Vard, and Egmar constellations as part of the Uprising storyline around the Turner Factoring campaign, with the Blood Raiders preying on the evacuation fleets. Correct. So I am confused though. So like, is the devlog correct that it's not in the head constellation? Did it actually change? Hold on. Because I'm just getting off saying like, oh yeah, it didn't change at all. I gotta see. This is from 2023. 5th of October to 6th of November. So the same as last year. Or same as this year, rather. That doesn't have the information. This is the same one. Start of Flosis Wind 3 Electric Boogaloo. No. Hold on. Huh. Where was the harder sites last time? That's Crimson Harvest has concluded. Crimson Harvest has begun. Eugidi, Angelus, and Head constellations. So it did change. Ooh, wait. No. Hold on. Setonia. Okay, but then can you please explain this, Setonia? What's right and what's wrong? Because this says Eugidi, Angelus, and Head. And the current one says whatever it says. Shit. Yeah, this is Eugidi, Angelus, and Essen. So is it Essen or Head? Does anybody know? Has anybody seen the sites? Yeah, what? That's my question. I'm not crazy, am I? This says Eugidi, Angelus, and Essen for this year. And last year's said Eugidi, Angelus, and Head. Let's see if the patch notes if any different. Essen does not equal Head. That's true. I'm pretty sure I know that one. Yeah, Eugidi, Angelus, and Essen. Constellation of the Metropolis region. Essen is Metropolis, but it doesn't have any system of interest in it at all. There's Eugidi. And we can, of course, see Turners and Eugidi, which is a big deal, right? That checks out. And there's Vard. That's the Head constellation. So this is the one, Vard is the one that isn't there? Is it a mistake? Should I just rush out there to see what I can see? Eugidi, Essen, and Angelus. The patch notes are right. So they did move. Okay. Okay. That's fair. Absolutely fair. And you know what? Setonia, I'm not going to make you, nobody here should expect you to have an answer for that. That's weird, but it is a change. So there we go. It's changed. So, in the end, it is what? For Where is it? I feel like I shouldn't be missing this, but I am. Oh, there it is. So yeah, it's this area. Egmar. I'm guessing Egmar is still part of it, right? Yeah, because it was Vard that was removed. So this southern area is no longer it. It's now this area up here mostly, it looks like. First storm. Yeah. So Flossiswin, which is currently the wow, Flossiswin is currently the Angel Cartel attack point. That's fun. And then Firstorn and Egmar. Okay. Weird. I wonder if it's because like they're more contiguous with each other. But either way, those are the constellations that it is. Apparently they can make minor changes, as we just found out. Good thing to double check. So that's what we got about the Crimson Harvest as far as like the locations and why. If we look at the daily login campaign, we can see that we get Fireworks, Dramiel, Daredevil, Thrasher, Astero, Catalyst, Cyclone, Tengu, Deluge, Squall, Avalanche. We get all those skins for the Deathglow Remnant as part of the login campaign. There's also what I think 650,000 LP or sorry skill points up for grabs, and of course the Tetramon and Crimson Harvest boosters, which will bonus you in lasers or NOSes or webs, and it depends on which one. There's a whole bunch of them, and some of course Skinner components and some Evermarks, just like previous events. Yeah. So what they've done now is they've started making it so that the login events have as many days of logging in as there are days in the event, right? So it used to be that they'd be like, okay, well, this is going to be a 30-day event, but the login track only lasts for 20 days, right? So as long as you log in for 20 out of those 30 days, you get everything, right? And a lot of people have had angst because of the fact that they've changed it to be like, okay, well, if you want to get every single reward, you have to log in every single day. You can't miss a single day. But have I visited the uncloaking structure in the last few days? Not today or yesterday. But the thing is that it's a bit of a misnomer. As you can see here, the final big reward is on day 25. Everything past that is all just boosters. Okay? So the idea is that in order to get the real prize, you have to only log in 25 out of the 33 days. But if you happen to log in for more than 25 days, you don't get nothing for it. That's it. That's all. So you just need to do the 25 days. The data sites are dropping Blood Raider skins. That they absolutely should. Yeah. So they start today. So the event sites will drop previous year's skins, right? So the Blood Raider skins and maybe even the Dark Iron or the Dark Blood. No. What's it called? Iron Blood? No. I mean, Iron Blood too, but no, not Cold Iron. Maybe I am talking about Iron Blood. Cold Iron will drop too, probably. I am talking about Iron Blood. So the Iron Blood were the previous rewards of previous years, and they've started making it so that previous year rewards are the ones that drop now. So, for instance, like, you could get potentially Iron Blood skins or Blood Raider skins from the sites, as well as some, you know, Cold Iron or maybe some other stuff too. Blood Raider modules, the implants, I think, can also drop. Can't remember what the grand prize is for Blood Raider-y stuff, but on the Tetramon side, it is significantly more related to the clones that drop. Now you can choose, you have to choose one side or the other in the agency, but you can still run sites of both. You just don't get credit for running sites on the side that you're ostensibly working with. The track for the event is faction smart bombs. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The track is not the same depending on whether or not you are a Tetramon or Crimson Harvest side. It also does not, there's no way to preview what the rewards are, which is something that's always pissed me off. So just so you know, the reward for, hold on, let me pull this up. The rewards for Saint Tetramon is the Succubus, Naga, Orthrus, Proteus, and Torrent skins, where the Crimson Harvest Blood Raider side is Worm, Myrmidon, Orthrus, Loki, Torrent. So both sides will get the Orthrus and the Torrent, but Saint Tetramon will get the Succubus, the Naga, and the Proteus, and the Blood Raider side will get Worm, Myrmidon, Loki. Since these are bind on acquire, that means that unless they drop next year, like I was just talking about, you cannot obtain both sides rewards. Unless, well, actually you can do one track on one character on an account and then do the track on a different character on the same account and then redeem all of the rewards to one character. And that's the only way to really have both sides. Any questions about that? There's also some Skinner components. The colors are different based on which empire you go with. I believe the final reward on both sides is the brutal splatter pattern, which is the blood splats on the ship. So yeah, that's the rewards there. To dig a little bit deeper into it, let's also look at the Hobo Leaks, which did get updated 9 hours ago. And it gave us these different Skinners components. But it's worth noting that these Skinner components are not the Skinner components for this event. In fact, we'd have to go back a few patches. So in one day, 9 hours ago, they posted this update that added all of the Crimson Harvest stuff. So we have the Harvest boosters. We have the different Deathglow Remnant skins that were added in. We have the Tetramon Gate Key Pass. So if you go the hacking sites, the way it works is that there's 3 rooms in the combat site, but you can actually skip from the first room to the third room if you have a key pass. This helps people that don't have like Marauders or whatever get some sites complete, because if you have a key, then you can kind of skip past it and try to finish the final room before anyone else can finish the second room. So there's that. We see the different Skinner components that were added in. There's a Crimson Harvest expert system that's available, which I think is kind of Lame, but it's on the it's in the NES, the New Eden store in game. Crimson Harvest Expert System is 98 Plex. I don't like the fact that when you click on it, you can't actually see what the Expert System gives you. You have to actually leave the store, open up your character sheet, go to Pilot Services. No. Where is it? Character? Yeah, Character, Expert Systems, Browse Expert Systems, Crimson Harvest Expert Systems. So here we can see what it gives you. It gives you pretty good battlecruiser level weapon systems, but not Tech 2 guns. And of course, not Tech 2 ships. So basically, level 4 of most of the weapon systems and their support skills, as well as the skills to actually fly the battlecruisers themselves. So that is the expert system that is available for 90 something Plex, I think. Yeah, 98 Plex. I don't necessarily think that that's worth it. I do find it interesting that you have, so there's the 2000 Plex one that comes with the Augurer, Balgorn, Deacon, Legion, Purifier, Revelation. And then there is the 295 pack that has the Ishimu, Krurer, and is that it? Just the Ishimu and Krurer. It also, these come with the expert system as well. It's so weird. It comes with 1,000 skill points, 250,000 skill points, and 5,000 skill points, and an acceleration booster. Kind of bizarre. And 10 skill extractors. Where were we? So, we also have the Anointed Dead pattern and the Brutal Splatter pattern. Hold on. The Anointed Dead isn't the one for the other race, is it? No, they both look like it's the splatter pattern that leads to them. So another thing that people noticed was there's no Blood Raider battlecruiser. No, there are no. The only pirate factions with battlecruisers and destroyers right now are the Guristas and the Angels. So while the Blood Raider side, killing the final boss in the Blood Raider side is where most of the prize is, because there'll be an overseer effects or modules or skins or whatever. Like 99% of all of the reward is in the final boss in the Blood Raider side of the event. On the Tetramon side of the event, though, it's usually a bit different, where any wreck can have these war clone blanks in them. Okay? Now, what's weird is that we've had these war clone blanks in the game for a while. In fact, we've had them for 3 years since the Crimson Harvest switched over to this new style. So they've now replaced the normal war clone blanks with the Tetramon war clone blanks. The war clone blanks have been building up for the last 3 years, but now they're introducing a new one, which are specifically Tetramon. Yeah. And that's weird for a couple of reasons. Like, first of all, any change to the system is kind of odd because, you know, as we know, like, it got moved to a different team that has limited resources to make changes, so changes kind of have to matter. So why do it? Why make this change? Well, the war clone blanks can be turned in. Both final bosses now have drops that you can hand in. What do you mean? That was the truth before. Because the Tetramon can drop war clone blanks, and Blood Raiders can drop Overseer effects. So, like, I actually have... I have a couple of stockpiles of War Clone blanks laying around. The idea is that if you take these to Blood Raider space in Nullsec, you can turn it in as a commodity for 1,000,000 ISK a piece. Okay? Oh, Blood Raiders now have Overseer Sabek files. Well, okay. So, the War Clone blanks have been accumulated, and the reason why this might be important is because there has been always this ongoing tinfoil that these War Clone blanks will be useful to something else in the future. Specifically, the Deathless might ask for the War Clone blanks at some point. So, the fact that they introduce a new War Clone blank, it could very well just be them trying to make sure that everything's nice and clean. But this does make it into a separate item. So now whatever happens to the old item is different than what happens to the new item. So we're not sure whether or not maybe they're going to discontinue people buying the other blanks. As far as I know, they now buy them both. But yeah. So these human clones have been engineered by the Order of St. Tetramon for infantry combat and are waiting for an infomorph consciousness transfer. War clone blanks are valuable pieces of biological equipment and are particularly high demand by the Blood Raiders as they consider the blood of clones to be the purest sacrament. Whereas the old ones just say this human clone has been engineered for infantry combat and waiting in reserve for the transfer of consciousness from a clone soldier. War clone blanks are a valuable piece of biological equipment. They're particularly high demand within the territory of the Blood Raider Covenant, as Omir Sakasura's infamous sect of Sana Sabek cultists consider the blood of clones to be the purest possible sacramental for the use in the Sanguine rituals. That is actually a good point. This is where the Sanguine tractor beam comes from, so there'll be more of those dropping. But in addition to that, we also have the Overseer Sabek Vial, which is dropping, as they were saying, from the Blood Raider side. Golden Sabek Vials are worn as pendants by Blood Raiders as a sign of their faith and dedication. They are stained with blood of a ceremony where the wearer was inducted to the faith. The marking of this vial proves that they belong to a high-ranking member of the Blood Raider Covenant. There's this proof that they have been defeated and can be traded with Concord or the DED. So basically, they just replaced the normal Overseer effects with these more event-specific Overseer effects. It's interesting because, like, it seems to suggest to me that maybe they're trying to track this year's commodities opposed to previous year's commodities, right? Because, like, if they give you if somebody sells a 20th Overseer effect, it's hard for them to know if that particular Overseer effect came from Crimson Harvest or not. This changes it so that way they know every single Tetramonic War Clone blank and every single Overseer Sabek file came from this particular event, regardless of when it's turned in. Also, we have the hyper-catabolic clone tissue. This human genetic material shows signs of extreme modification previously only observed in Jovian samples. Genetic modeling extrapolates that a clone grown from the sample would have a metabolic rate of 100 times higher, produce 10 times as much adrenaline, and a drastically lower reaction time. It is, however, incredibly unstable and would likely die before taking its first breath. Despite its instability, this genetic material represents an important research step. Blood Raiders, the SSCT, and the SSCT are keen to acquire it, but the Deathless Circle has expressed an even greater desire to recover these samples. So, do we know where these are dropped? Oh, so both sides drop the clone tissues. And this seems to suggest that these are closer to like Vanguard clones than normal clones, but hard to say. We also have the Totality Day Accelerator, which let's just put a pause on that. Those aren't the accelerators that are dropping now, right? Wait, are there accelerators dropping now? Yes. So we have the basic radiance, potent radiance, and extended radiance. So, give me those golden torso rigs, even if I have to scavenge one from the Tetron guys. You know, you can get those. Those are actually gotten from the New Eden store. I'm not saying that you have to get it from the store. Oops. But they do come from the store. So if you want one, you're going to probably need to get it from the Plex store or from the secondary market. Risk. All right. So, where was I? So the Totality Day booster is, I think, something different. So Totality Day is the day that Totality happened. It was when the Triglavian Collective managed to capture 27 systems, and Totality Day was the day that those 27 systems turned into Pochvin. Totality Day is on the last year. The Totality Day celebrations was from the 13th to the 18th of October. So, yes, Totality Day was an event that was originally organized by Strybog. That's correct, but it got quickly picked up by CCP. True. So the point is that the Totality Day is going to happen in the middle of the Crimson Harvest, but the Totality Day booster, as well as the new things that were just added in today, right? These new skins: Glorified Ruby Gloss, Murky Pravda Satin, Azure Istana Gloss, Bouillon Blue Steel, and Kyber Conjunction. These are all Totality, or like Triglavian based stuff. So given the fact that there's 5 of them, and we can go and look at Totality Day. Where was it? Where was it? Where was it? I had it. Oh, well. '13th to the 18th of October. So that's 5 days. According to this, it was from the 13th to the 18th of October, so it was 5 days. Assuming it's the same, we have 5 rewards. So chances are, I imagine these are going to be just login rewards. Why? Wait. I just realized I keep flipping my browser on and off, and it's not actually making it pop on. Sorry. But yes, 5 tasks, or 5 different items. Totality usually runs for 5 days. So chances are we will be getting a login event during Totality Day, maybe in conjunction with the Crimson Harvest event. And how we get the Totality boosters, unsure. So yeah, we have Totality Day. We have Crimson Harvest. We have the Harada Oki Caravan on the 8th. We have the Sovereignty changeover and the release of Eve Galaxy Conquest on the 29th? 28th? 28th. It's going to be a busy month, guys. So let's keep track of it. No, if you want to know what's going on and as it all unfolds, make sure to keep an eye on the stream. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to subscribe so you get those things, the news as soon as it comes out. Also come to our Discord, because that's where we discuss a lot of things, especially when I can't go live. You can also come and join the Convocation of Periods and help us maximize player engagement with EVE Online. In the meantime, I think that's about it for the talkie part. Let's go ahead and at least kick out and see if we can run a site really quick. second. I gotta fix my sound. I wonder where the new drifter is, or if it even showed up at all. Is there another new drifter? I imagine it'll show up and attack the caravan, potentially. All right, well, I can't hear anything, but you guys can, so we're going to go. So I am going to try to do some of the Crimson Harvest. I'm going to open up my agency, and I'm going to go to Encounters. Nope. Exploration. Combat Anomalies. And I can see Serpentis Refuge, Tetramon Base, Serpentis Refuge next door. Let's go.
Warp drive active.
Sphony Tyrannos. Is that today? What kind of ship would be good for this event? Battleships or I use, this is an Absolution. The biggest problem, so, okay, on the Blood Raider side, they have a lot of newts. On the Tetramon side, they've got a lot of tracking disruption. Oh, yep, the Tetramon base is already ran. So, Crimson, the Blood Raider side has newts. Tetramon has more damage and tracking disruption. However, the biggest threat that you have is other players outracing you. So, but there is a lot of movement, especially in the second room. So it's not like exactly Marauder friendly. That's why you see a lot of people in like Praxis and stuff. I've got my Absolution. Something that's fast that can like hit things easily is usually pretty good. The curses usually sit at about 20k. So you want to be able to hit at least 20 to 25k very consistently. So I can see here on the beacons, both the Tetramon base and the Crimson Harvest base has been started because they're on the thing. If they hadn't been started, then they wouldn't be on this page. So we're going into a base that has already been that has already been started, or at least somebody has warped to it already. So chances are it's going to have people in it. I'm also in faction warfare, so this could be fun. All right, so they're still in the first room. That's good. There's two gates, right? The right gate is online, but requires the key to open. The left gate is locked until it can be... Now, the rats themselves have an ability to reposition, which you're seeing right here. Basically, I came in and I was a new target for him. So it wanted to deal with me, or maybe it wanted to deal with the other guy. But if it tries to attack you and it can't because you're too far away, it will warp off and warp back in order to get a better bead on you. And I should have brought long-range ammo. You can see I am warp disrupted. I think that there are scrams, but it's only the frigates that scram. I should have brought better ammo. So I'm having to turn around in order to get close enough because I only have my short-range ammo right now. I'm just waiting for that war target to land and kill me. Yes, I should turn on my hardeners. Normally, the alarms that I hear that tell me to turn things on aren't happening. So because we've killed all the rats, we can activate the gate.
Warp drive active.
I should have gone to the Tetramon base. At least then I would have gotten points. Let's see if I can still go there.
Warp drive active.
Will you scram me before I get off? No. So now that I've warped to the Tetramon base, this should pop up. I have to click on it. Boom. Play my reward. Boom. Good points. I'm going to see if there's anybody else in here. There's the Hurricane Fleet issue on the inside. So let's go ahead and head on in. Again, if I had a key card, I could activate this and go directly into the third room, bypassing the second room altogether. So for those of you who are like newer players and are worried about competing with other people, you know, being off the beaten path is good, but then also you going through the hacking sites to get some of those key cards first can be a very useful thing to do. Just make sure not to spam activate, because it'll just it'll consume all your key cards on a single attempt. You know, like you can waste them all in the single one. There's suspect. That's super fucking sketchy. It kind of suggests that they're definitely going to steal my stuff if they get a chance. Why not? These Tetramon curses are by far the worst part of this whole thing. They've got the newts and they've got the tracking disruption. There they are. And a warp disruptor to boot. Now, because I'm in a Tetramon site, that's why I have this tractor beam. Because any wreck could have the clone blanks. At least that's how it was in previous years. So I'm going to tractor this in. Just a warp disruption from the curse. I'm going to go towards the curse so that way I can get closer to it. My lasers can hit. Nothing good. So what's the purpose of changing the war clone blank's name? The normal blanks don't drop from anywhere else, as far as I know. Like I said, I think that if anything, it just makes it into a new commodity, right? So then they could theoretically do something different with the old ones, but also able to keep track of the popularity of this event versus other things. Beyond that, I'm not sure why you would do that. But they also did make sure they got rid of the normal overseer effects and put in their own Tetramon event, their own Blood Raider specific overseer effects. So that seems to suggest to me that this is. I wouldn't read too much into it. It feels like some sort of like meta decision. The exploration event thingies? What do you mean? Like a hacking site? Didn't find any blanks except for in the final boss. They were rare before, but they did definitely exist outside of there. Maybe that is it. Maybe they changed the loot rules, and that's why. If effects or Navy issue is still able to do C3 combat sites and wormholes. Well, the VNI got like changed a while back pretty significantly, so it doesn't have the heavy drones anymore. I wish I had my long-range weapon. Although, honestly, a long-range weapon system wouldn't even help at this point. That's still too far, I think. Yep, so far no blanks, but that doesn't surprise me. I saw a video of Captain Benzine doing it a year ago, but I am not having a good time. Huh. A year ago? I mean, I imagine that it should be about the same as a year ago. I don't think the VNI has been changed significantly since a year ago. It is possible that they did change it. I used to have to bring around a tractor beam or tractor unit just for that. So for the most part, the waves themselves are not very dangerous. I will say that if anything, you should be worried about the newts. The newting in both sides, but if, in particular the Blood Raider side is, if you're gonna die, it's probably going to be because you got newted out. Crimson Harvest in a Blood Raider ship. I know some people that did Crimson Harvest in like have done Crimson Harvest in a Balgorn very successfully. All right, I'm going to shoot at the curse instead. Yikes. Oh, I don't have my implants in, though. Maybe I can go after the Crusader? Can I hit the Crusader? Yes. I'll run a cycle of this. Of my Ansil.
A module has run out of charges. A module has run out of charges.
Wait, what? Oh my god, I'm actually in a real trouble. Whoa. All right, I'm in legitimate issue. This is a fun way to die. I can't. I have 2 crystals of conflag. I came in here without double checking my supplies. All right, so we're gonna do a whoopsie doodle and see if this helps. Launch my drones. Well, they're blapping my drones without actually getting rid of my scram. Awesome. The curse that has the scram. Well, this is bad. Where did the other people in the other room go? I did do that. That didn't work. Hmm. How much life is on this crystals? Look, 81% damage and 71% damage. So, no, it's bad. I'm in bad situation right now. What to do? I'm actually, honestly, really surprised that nobody's come in here and rescued me yet. Am I just missing? It's the curses that have the point. So let's see. I can hit them a little bit easier. Oh yeah, I'm definitely hitting them easier. Is he armor tanked? Oh no! Why did I suddenly stop hitting it? Ask some local if anybody wants the site. I don't... I mean, it's fucking... It's Do-Dixie. What crystals do you need? How far from Jita are you? I'm in Do-Dixie. Oh, that's my cap drying out, too. That's worse. Log an ammo truck. Why did I have nothing in my cargo bay? Always check your stuff. There you go. My cap is holding. My reps are kind of holding. We're fine-ish. We'll see how long this lasts. I mean, they can't take forever. I think it's funny that, like, so this means that on the outside, all those people were like, oh man, the Absolution got in there first. I guess there's no point. There's the Hurricane Fleet issue, the Paladin, and the Rattlesnake on the outside. Two minutes. Who are you? This is fun. Don't panic. Nobody panic. It'll be fine. How much is this ship worth? Hold on. Oh, I mean, it's only a 500 million-ish ship. Whatever. I should have docked up in Dodixie first and gotten all of my equipment. Changed into my pod. I don't know why I didn't. Excitement. I did it for the excitement. You all thought, see, this is the trick. You all thought you were going to get a tutorial on how to fly these sites correctly. Huh? Huh? Whoops. It like fools you. You thought. No strategy guide here. When do you get good at meme? Oh, that's the funny thing. You don't. What crystals do you need? I mean, any medium crystals would be fine, but mostly I just need these 4 dudes killed. Hey! A paladin came in. There you go. Get him! Ooh, a white paladin too. Is that what I think it is? No, never mind. It's just a Skinner. Take all the aggro. That's right. Stop attacking me. My savior. And we're leaving.
Warp drive active.
We're good. We're good. I'm alive. The Paladin and the Rattlesnake and the Hurricane Fleet issue somehow saved me. They've got the site. It's fine. Now I just need to make sure that I don't die to faction warfare dudes on the undock. I've got 17 seconds left on my timer. I warped to the wrong place anyways. There's the amulets. Oh, I did have it here. All right, step 1, dock here.
Docking request accepted.
I'm alive. We're fine. I appreciate your concern. You're a room behind them? Well, we got it. We're good. Thank you. First of all, be in the correct implants. Flying through Isaac, it's the worst. I appreciate it, guys. All right, let's go to the main station. get this all situated. This is why every laser ship has at least one set of standard crystals. You know, Wizard, okay, here's how this works. I am sure at some point I was like, oh, well, fuck, I don't need it. And I just grabbed everything out of this ship and threw it somewhere else. And then this morning, when I was getting ready, I was just like, oh, look, here's my ship. And I hopped in it, and I didn't do what I was supposed to. So, yes, there should absolutely be stuff in my ship. It got pulled out.
Warp drive active.
It obviously got pulled out at some point. And that's how to almost lose an absolution. Goes back to Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. I appreciate it, Malik. Good hustle.
Docking permission requested.
All right, well, that's been 3 hours, guys. So I'm actually going to probably be back tomorrow to run some sites. At least you guys saw the what it looks like and how to not do it. There is lots of stuff going on right now in the game. There might be a lot of things to be anxious about, but there's still a lot of things to be excited about. So please let me know in the comments down below. Are you excited about the Crimson Harvest at all? Are you excited about Galaxy Conquest at all? You know, whatever. Am I wrong about the Skyhook changes? I don't know. But with all that said, and with that excitement out of the way, I've been Ashrothi. I've been playing this game since 2010, talking about it since 2012, and I'm here, but even to context for you, my fellow Imperials. Thank you guys so much for coming, checking out the stream, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing it with a friend, because that's how we get this information out there, and we maximize player engagement, or maximize player literacy in EVE Online, which is how we get a better EVE Online with better players. So it's a all of us effort. I appreciate every one of you who have come here and hung out and participated. Thank you so much for Satonia for helping out with the patch and understanding some of the details, and of course those who supported the stream, who's I got that would be Sheesh, McGruber, and Bash for your gifted subs, and of course Punch for your $5 donation. You guys are awesome, but so is all of you who watch the stream, like it, etc., because that's what gets it in front of people's faces. With all that said, I've been Ashrothi, the voice of New Eden. Until next time, see you in space. My mug broke. I'm very sad. My invited mug. I accidentally got my mug broke today while chasing after the dog. I'm very sad. My mug is broke, but you can get your own. There's links down below. Bye.
see.